Mortal Kombat Slander is out of control. Listen, okay, every game has its flaws, obviously, which is why criticism is good. But the diabolical levels of slander for Mortal Kombat need to stop. So today, I'm debunking the biggest lies about Mortal Kombat. From the gameplay to facts about the lore, and even lies about the fanbase itself. Yeah, it goes pretty deep. Likely because Mortal Kombat is so popular and everybody hates on first place. But then again, Mortal Kombat 1 flopped hard, and people still roasted it too, so yeah, maybe roasting MK is just that fun. But slander is where I draw the line. So today, I'm defending the defenders of the realm, get it? Along with its community, spelled with a K by the way, and of course the gameplay itself that I've grown to love. But before I get started everyone, let me know in the comments down below the wildest Mortal Kombat slander you've ever heard. And then while you're down there, leave a like if you enjoyed today's video. If today's video gets 2,000 likes, the next Mortal Kombat game will be amazing. Then of course subscribe so you never miss any future videos. Alright everyone, without any further ado, let's begin. Alright, big Mortal Kombat slander number 1. The gameplays are the easiest, alright? Or at least much easier than the big three, Street Fighter and Tekken. I'll throw Guilty Gear in the mix too because it's gotten way more popular in recent years. The notion that Mortal Kombat is somehow the easiest by far is a ridiculous statement. As somebody who's played all of the recent games and learned pretty much every single character in those games, for the sake of my channel, obviously, I can say without a doubt that Mortal Kombat has its difficulties, and in my opinion is one of the tougher games to play. Because first off, no auto combos and no modern controls, alright? I'm sorry to go that low to punch below the belt right away, but I gotta go there. Because every other fighting game on screen right now has an easy mode, whether it be auto combos or mapping every attack to a single button and just mashing to get the full combo like in Tekken or Soul Calibur, Dead or Alive, you get the idea. Mortal Kombat's got none of that. If you want to do a specific combo, you gotta press those exact buttons. So that alone's a great argument for why Mortal Kombat is not easier than other fighting games. But if anyone's interested, I made a full video covering this topic already. It goes from anti-mashing mechanics built in to how block buttons actually make a fighting game more complicated once you get past the casual level, and yada yada yada, you get the idea, right? The idea that Mortal Kombat is easier, I think stems from the casual fan base being so big. But honestly, I think that happened because Mortal Kombat leaned so hard into single player content and made that the focus for over a decade now. Whereas other fighting games focused on the online aspect or the multiplayer aspect of the game itself, which makes sense, it is a fighting game, so playing with people should be a priority. However, Mortal Kombat went the opposite way and said, here's a story mode, here's the challenge tower, here's a bunch of single player stuff to do in case you don't want to play with other people. So if anybody claims that Mortal Kombat is targeting casuals, that's 100% true. I absolutely agree. But the gameplay being super easy? No, absolutely not. But okay, for a fast example, if we talk about Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1, the two newest fighting games in their series, for Street Fighter 6, learning a new character is not crazy difficult. I spend like an hour in training mode, maybe watch a couple tutorials, and then I'm good to go. I can do reasonably well with that character. But for Mortal Kombat 1, when a new character comes out, not only is the move list bigger, but also the army of cameo characters and finding out which one pairs best in certain situations. Then previously in Mortal Kombat 11, you had to learn the stage interactables and which stage paired best with which character based on those interactables, how to combo with them, how to do block strings into them, all that stuff. Yeah, the variables alone are just higher in Mortal Kombat than other 2D fighting games. Now of course 3D fighting games are more complicated in terms of the sheer move list. However, like mentioned in this video, you can mash buttons in Tekken and still get the string, or just press the first couple of buttons and then mash a different button that has all the attacks mapped to it and get the full string, okay? Not to mention the auto combos and simple controls, yada yada yada. We're back to the beginning, okay? The whole thing's come full circle. It's an Ouroboros eating its own tail. Alright, big Mortal Kombat slander number 2, the gooning epidemic, alright? There's a lie online that Mortal Kombat fans are just goonier than other communities in the FGC, right? The fighting game community. And I'm sorry, but that's a flat out lie. That's a bold-faced lie. I'm gonna hop on Rule 34 right now, okay? And we're gonna get to the bottom of this, end this debate once and for all right now. Unless I happen to be wrong, in which case I'll look very goofy. So I'm gonna type in Mortal Kombat, and let's see the results, alright? 25,378 risque images created by the community. It's a big number to be sure, but now let's type in Street Fighter and just see what that looks like. 94,348, so over 3 times times the amount of risque artwork made by the fans. And this pattern repeats everywhere you go, whether it's on modding websites or mature video websites, all that stuff, okay? I don't think Mortal Kombat's even in the top 5 when it comes to fighting game gooning communities. Just for fun, how's Tekken? 22,000, so Tekken's a bit better than Mortal Kombat slightly, but only on this website. Then also keep in mind how much bigger Mortal Kombat is than Tekken in terms of sheer fan base, right? Tekken is smaller and yet has almost the same level of risque art, which means a higher percentage of the Tekken community is gooning, alright? I don't think Mortal Kombat even cracks the top 5. However, with that all being said, I understand where this rumor comes from because previous Mortal Kombat games, especially in the 3D era and then Mortal Kombat 9, did have tons of risque costumes for most of the characters. And I think that's where this rumor stems from. The Mortal Kombat developers made more goony material than the Street Fighter developers and Tekken developers, yada yada yada. However, that also being said, maybe that's because Mortal Kombat was just ahead of the curve when it came to extra costumes and stuff like that. Because once other games started adding extra costumes like Street Fighter, Tekken, and Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur, you get the idea, we started seeing way more risque costumes. So I think Mortal Kombat may have just been ahead of the curve. But yeah, in summary, anyone who claims the Mortal Kombat community is the gooniest or just filled with gooners, no, that's objectively false, and I debunked it right here in real time with super basic arguments. In fact, recent Mortal Kombat games are the least goony of all, which has upset a good chunk of the fan base, but only because fighting gamers in general are goonery. Alright, we just are. By the way, my girlfriend hates this topic. She despises every time I bring up anything like this, and she can hear me because she's in the living room and or kitchen while I record this, and she hates the word goon. I'm basically forbidden from using it, but it's for a video, it's for my job, so hopefully that's okay. Fingers crossed for my safety. Alright, Mortal Kombat Slander number 3. The Mortal Kombat characters are weaker than other fighting game characters, like Street Fighter, Tekken, etc. Okay, so first of all, power scaling a fighting game universe is next to impossible because it's so inconsistent. The story says one thing while the gameplay says something different, right? For example, in recent Mortal Kombat games, getting shot actually hurts the characters, but the gameplay says opposite, so it's very confusing. Are these characters bulletproof or not? And if they aren't bulletproof, then how is Stryker not the strongest character in the universe, right? Why is every Earthrealm hero not just carrying a submachine gun or something? You know what I mean? It's all one big contradiction, which is why I believe the new writers just don't understand Mortal Kombat, because these characters get punched through ceilings, fall really far distances onto concrete, right, slammed through walls, all that crazy stuff, which heavily implies they'd be bulletproof, or at least bullet resistant, similar to Dragon Ball, right? In that series, some humans are just straight up bulletproof, or can catch bullets on reaction, all that supernatural stuff, and I think Mortal Kombat humans are very similar. I don't mean they're anywhere near Dragon Ball characters, I'm just saying humans in Mortal Kombat are much stronger than regular humans. For Pete's sake, in the bonus rounds, they're destroying entire anvils with a karate chop. That's insane. The amount of power required to do that is just what? And actually, they chop blocks of diamond. Yeah, one of the hardest materials on Earth, made of like pure carbon. Diamond is so incredibly hard to break, and these Mortal Kombat characters karate chop it with ease. So now compare that with Street Fighter, where characters destroy a car by punching and kicking it many times. That's still an impressive feat. A regular human could not destroy a car themselves, and certainly not as quick as a Street Fighter character does. However, comparing these two situations, it's clear which characters are stronger, and the developers made these mini games with their power level in mind, or at least that's what I believe. But of course, like I mentioned earlier, it's impossible to power scale these games consistently because the writers themselves aren't consistent. You have Balrog in Street Fighter killing elephants with a single punch, which is insanely powerful. So if that man punched Chun-Li, she should explode into bits, assuming she's not bulletproof, and we know that she's not, but any human who can punch hard enough to kill an elephant in that single punch is obliterating a human, like they just are. How strong would you need to be? Yeah, there's no consistency across the board. That being said, I do think certain villains like Akuma are absurdly powerful, but Mortal Kombat has characters that are actually invincible. Like, you literally can't hurt them in a fight. Mortal Kombat has villains that can erase time itself or destroy entire universes. Even Shao Kahn can merge universes together through his sheer willpower alone. That's a fact from the older games. Theoretically, Shao Kahn is stronger than like 100,000 humans put together, and yet Liu Kang beat him in a fight and is also dodging machine gun fire on reaction with his eyes closed. All that crazy crazy stuff. So no, I'm sorry. From all the research I've done, and keep in mind, I'm a very big Street Fighter fan, I'm a very big Tekken fan as well, and the Mortal Kombat characters are just built different, alright? They're on a whole different level. However, all that being said, I'd happily have a debate with someone who feels otherwise, and maybe I can be enlightened. But everyone in the comments who swears Street Fighter characters are stronger than Mortal Kombat characters, or that Tekken characters are stronger than Mortal Kombat characters, they never bring me any solid evidence. Instead, they're just going off vibes or borderline glazing the franchise they love, which I understand because, again, these fighting games have zero consistency. But I mean, Scorpion defeated Superman, alright? Batman lost to Sub-Zero. These Mortal Kombat warriors are just built different. I'm sorry, alright? And it's not just arcade mode, that was story mode itself, alright? DC allowed Midway to use their characters and said, yes, this story makes sense to us. We approve this story of Superman getting beaten by Scorpion and Batman getting defeated by Sub-Zero, yada yada yada. Now, of course, before anyone brings this up, yes, the power levels are fluctuating a bit in that game. That's an actual plot point, but still, Superman lost a fight to a Mortal Kombat ninja. That happened. So unless you want me to believe the power levels did this and just completely inverted, which the game never states, it just says the power levels are fluctuating a little bit, then yeah, Mortal Kombat characters are just built different. I think if the writers were to do their research, then even humans are bullet resistant, if not borderline bulletproof, because otherwise they're not surviving getting thrown through a wall or punched through a ceiling. That's honestly more impressive than being thrown through a wall. But then look at this nonsense on screen. They're falling for several seconds. That's like getting hit by a freight train and just walking it off. Yeah, no, anybody who says Mortal Kombat characters are just weaker, that's borderline slander. I don't see any evidence that proves that, from the gameplay to story mode nonsense and everything in between. With all that being said, I love these fighting games. I want the communities to come together and stop beefing. That's the point of this video. I'm not trying to make people angry, quite the opposite. I want to build bridges here, alright? The Mortal Kombat slander needs to stop, because there's plenty of things the games do wrong and the community does wrong, absolutely, but these three biggest lies on screen are just not true. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave a like down below. Let's shoot for 2,000 likes, then finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell so you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.